Well, let's get more on this now from John Herbst, who's a former US ambassador to Ukraine and a senior director of the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Centre. Appreciate you taking the time to come on, John. When people die on the battlefield in conflict, it's pretty clear cut. It's all part of the war. When someone dies in this manner, it's a little less clear. So it's an assassination, that's pretty obvious. But Ukraine says that this is totally justified. They say that Igor Kirillov was a war criminal. Russia says this is a terrorist attack. How do you view it?
Look, Russia's conducting a war of war crimes. They've kidnapped at least 20,000 Ukrainian children. They have raped and murdered thousands, if not tens of thousands of Ukrainian. And this man, under reliable information, used chemical weapons against Ukraine. He's an absolutely legitimate target. He's not a child. He's not a woman. He's a combatant. And he's one of the most vicious war criminals in Russia, or former war criminals, as he's now dear and departed.
The circumstances of this killing, it's central Moscow. Well, that's fair to say. I think we're talking about 7 kilometres away from the Kremlin, and it was done so efficiently. It was clearly there were eyes on the target. The timing was exact, and obviously Russian intelligence had no idea about this. Do you think this will have shocked Russian officials?
It shouldn't have. Ukrainian special operations have taken out Russian officers on a number of occasions in the middle of Russia, people who've committed war crimes in Ukraine. Contrast this with the bombing of civilians by Russians every day in Ukraine, the bombing of hospitals intentionally. There's no comparison. This is a legitimate act of war as opposed to the regular Russian war crimes.
The fact that Ukraine's security services, though, have managed to penetrate so deep into the heart of Russia, do you think this is going to spread fear amongst the Russian public that they're now, or any of them, could be vulnerable?
Right now, Russian drone operators are targeting civilians in Herbst. The Ukrainians took out a general. As far as I can see, no civilians were hurt. Contrast Russian war crimes with this clean operation against a clear war criminal. No comparison.
What do you anticipate will happen next? Russia has a habit of when it has been, let's say, been exposed as having vulnerabilities, usually it comes back with a very strong response militarily. Do you anticipate we'll see something like that?
Actually, what it comes back is a lot of bluster about nuclear weapons and then attacking Ukrainian civilians. This is an army of cowards led by cowards. It's a disgrace. And, you talk about Russians and Ukrainians fighting in Ukraine. Why don't you talk about Germans and the Soviets fighting in Soviet Union when Hitler was in charge? That's what we're talking about, that type of regime. Not as bad as Hitler, but very bad.
John, thanks for coming on. John Herbst, Senior Director of the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Centre, my guest. Thank you.